Ain't nobody touching me.
I'm gonna send my cousin over here. Do not touch me,
Don't
bro.
call nobody over here.
Oh, baby, tell your daughter to keep her hands on me. Tell your daughter to keep her hands on me.
You the one slap me. You the one slap me. Hit me now. Hit me now.
Keep your hands on me.
What's
up, man?
I'm still asking what is the conversation.
Oh man, that's what I'm finna do. I'm finna get.
Get somewhere, sit down. Y'all gonna have to stop all this. Then y'all wonder why the kids.
On a quiet Saturday morning in Columbus, Mississippi, a horrifying scene unfolded live on social media. What began as a domestic argument between a young couple ended in deadly violence, broadcast in real time on Facebook Live.
What is the conversation? No, what's the conversation? What's the conversation?
Keep your hands on me.
What's the conversation?
Keep your hands on me. Don't touch me, bro.
What's the conversation?
Move, bro. I'm getting ready for work, man. Go.
How you getting ready for work? What is going on? That's all I'm here. I'm over here doing. Telling me I don't do nothing for the kids. I don't do nothing. I do what I can when I can. But like I said, don't keep putting me in situations that's not my problem. And then, like I said, this is your family. You supposed to be here. Helping take care of these kids. No, you're not good because you're not here taking care of these kids. He wanna go pop everybody.
Keep your hands on me, bro. Don't touch me again.
Touch you.
Just sit down over here. We'll make it easy. Sit down over here.
Ain't nobody finna come over here and do nothing.
Get your hands on me, bro. Stop touching me. Move.
Jesus, stop.
Sit down over here,
Ain't nobody coming over here.
Oh, me, bro. Sit down. Get your motherfucking hands on me. Stop touching me, bro.
Stop.
Don't touch me.
Stop. Murder scene,
Stop.
Stop.
Let go. Touch me. Touch me again. Touch me.
Stop. Ain't nobody finna do that. Ain't nobody finna do nothing.
Open this house. Stop.
Don't worry about it.
Stop.
Stop. Yeah. Stop. Yeah, bitch. Stop. Stop. I'm not over here for this.
Motherfucker, keep my hands on me, bro.
Bitch. Stop. Nobody, I can get out my bed for this. Stop. Oh, you want to get everything in the top about me. Stop. Get somewhere and sit down. Y'all gonna have to stop all this. Then y'all wonder why the kids.
By the time officers arrived at the scene, it was already too late. Inside the small Columbus apartment, 28-year-old Jeremy Brown, husband, father, provider, was lying on the floor, motionless. A single gunshot had ended his life. What made the moment even more chilling was that it had all unfolded on Facebook Live. The stream had shown the tail end of a heated argument, voices raised, insults flying, and then Kajesa Brown appeared, phone in hand, yelling into the screen. Her mother's voice echoed in the background, pushing her, pressing her, fueling the rage. Jeremy, clearly trying to leave, trying to walk away, found himself trapped in something far more dangerous than an argument. And then darkness. The phone dropped. The screen went black. But what the audience didn't see, they heard. A scream, a shot, children crying. At first, it seemed like a crime of passion, a fight that spiraled out of control. But when investigators started digging deeper, the pieces didn't quite fit. The timing, the pressure, the presence of the camera, it all suggested something else. This wasn't just a tragic outburst. It may have been calculated, intentional, and behind the chaos, a motive no one saw coming. This is the life and death of Jeremy Brown. Before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed, because in a world full of secrets, some stories don't stay buried forever. Jeremy Brown was born on October 18, 1994, in the deep heart of Mississippi. He came from a proud Southern family, one built on the values of hard work, humility, and showing up for the people you love. His childhood home was a revolving door of family, neighbors, and warmth. It wasn't big, but it was full of laughter, of struggle, of love. Jeremy was the second of 4 siblings. His mother worked 2 jobs to make ends meet, and his father, though often tired, always found time to coach Little League or help a neighbor fix a busted radiator. That kind of devotion left a mark on Jeremy early. Even as a child, there was a stillness to him, a calm strength that made people feel safe. He wasn't loud. He didn't need to be. When Jeremy spoke, people listened. Teachers trusted him, coaches depended on him, and the neighborhood kids looked up to him like he was made of something stronger than the rest of them. He was the kind of kid who'd walk a friend home just to be sure they made it. The kind who'd give up his seat at church for someone's grandmother without thinking twice. Compassion ran deep in his veins, so deep that sometimes it overwhelmed him. Friends used to joke that Jeremy had an old soul, but it wasn't a joke, it was the truth. In high school, Jeremy built a reputation for being dependable. He didn't chase attention, but it found him anyway. He volunteered at the food pantry, joined local programs, and dreamed of one day owning a small business. Maybe carpentry or landscaping. He didn't want flash. He wanted legacy, something he could build and one day pass down. After graduation, he jumped headfirst into adulthood. He took a job as a delivery driver to help his mom with bills, and later picked up part-time construction gigs. It was hard work, but he never complained. He showed up early, stayed late, and always carried himself with quiet pride. His paychecks didn't go to sneakers or video games. They went to light bills, groceries, savings. He was working for his family, for a future he hadn't even seen yet, but was determined to make real. And then came Kajesa. They met during that stretch of young adulthood, when Jeremy was grinding through jobs and trying to lay a foundation. Kajesa was the opposite of him, in almost every way. She was bold, fiery, outspoken. Where Jeremy brought calm, she brought chaos. But that contrast sparked something between them. They met through mutual friends. What started with casual conversations quickly turned into late-night texts, shared meals, inside jokes. Jeremy was drawn to her intensity. Kajesa was drawn to his stability. It moved fast. Within a year, they were living together. Jeremy was proud to call her his. He cared for her, looked out for her, protected her. He often called her his queen, and he meant it. He wasn't just in love, he was all in. To friends, Jeremy was the rock of the relationship. He was loyal, attentive, and always the one to step back and try to find peace when things got heated. He didn't believe in yelling. He believed in solutions. And when the kids came, Jeremy found his calling. Together they had 4 children, and Jeremy became the kind of father most kids can only dream of. He was up before sunrise making breakfast, doing school drop-offs, helping with homework after long shifts, and still finding time to dance in the living room or grill out back on weekends. His social media told the story. Birthday parties, game nights, cookouts, family walks. He called his kids his purpose. He hugged them often, apologized when he made mistakes, and always made sure they knew they were loved. But behind the photos and the sweet captions, things were starting to crack. The relationship between Jeremy and Kajesa was changing. The arguments, once rare, became routine. Sometimes they were small, sometimes they were explosive. Friends noticed, family noticed, but Jeremy rarely talked about it. He didn't want to paint her as the villain. He wanted to fix it. People close to him say he was patient to a fault. He took on more than he should have, absorbed the yelling, silenced his own needs, all in the name of peace, of family, of keeping it together. But whispers started to spread about control, manipulation, outside influences. The warmth that once defined their home was cooling, and the tension in the air was getting harder to ignore. Jeremy, still trying to be the man his kids looked up to, started leaning more on his extended family, spending weekends with cousins, checking in with his mother more often, trying to find balance, clarity. But he never gave up on his home. He never gave up on her. He stayed, hoping things would get better, praying the storm would pass, until one morning, it didn't, because on March 25th, 2023, what started as just another fight turned into something else. It wasn't the first argument, but it would be the last. On the evening of March 25th, 2023, inside the apartment they shared in Columbus, Mississippi, tensions between Jeremy Brown and his longtime partner, Kajesa Michelle Brown, finally snapped. The argument had been brewing all day. What began as a minor disagreement had spiraled into a relentless storm of accusations, slamming doors, and harsh words. Shockingly, part of the confrontation had been broadcast on Facebook Live via Kajesa's phone. Only the audio was captured, as the phone was apparently knocked to the ground during the tussle. The couple's 4 young children were reportedly inside the apartment, trapped in the middle of something far too heavy for innocent ears. Jeremy, always the peacemaker, tried to de-escalate. He asked for space. He tried to walk away, but Kajesa wouldn't let the argument rest. She accused him of neglecting their children, of being emotionally absent, and her mother, who was also in the apartment, could be heard in the background, adding fuel to the fire, pushing her daughter further into rage. But that wasn't all. In the hours leading up to the tragedy, Kajesa had taken the fight public. She posted a series of pointed emotional messages on Facebook, accusing Jeremy of cheating. She claimed he was involved with women from his job, even posting screenshots of alleged conversations. There was no confirmed evidence to support the claims, but that didn't stop her, and then she went live. Kajesa had done this before. Friends and family had seen her stream previous arguments, air personal drama in real time. Most dismissed it as another emotional outburst, something that would blow over. But this time, it didn't. Dozens of people clicked into the live stream that evening, expecting another loud, uncomfortable exchange between the two. What they got instead was the sound of a man trying to keep control, as everything around him fell apart. Jeremy could be heard in the background, his voice low, calm, almost pleading. He told her he didn't want to fight. He asked to leave. He moved around the apartment, collecting his things, trying to exit without conflict. But Kajesa followed him, phone in hand, camera rolling, throwing out accusations, demanding answers, refusing to let him go. And then off camera, a single deafening sound cut through the stream. A gunshot. Lowndes County Sheriff Eddie Hawkins later described the chilling moment. The phone had been thrown down, and then you heard the shot. Immediately after the firearm discharged, screams erupted. Kajesa and Jeremy's young children could be heard crying out, "Daddy," in the background, and Kajesa screamed for help, claiming the gun went off. The live video abruptly ended, but by then horrified viewers realized they had potentially witnessed a murder in real time. But nothing could prepare first responders for what they would find when they arrived. Nearby, Jeremy's body lay fatally wounded. First responders pronounced him dead at the scene. Investigators recovered a 9mm handgun believed to be the murder weapon inside the apartment, along with other evidence of the struggle. Kajesa Brown was taken into custody on the spot, arrested without further incident. In the immediate aftermath, she was transported to the Lowndes County Adult Detention Center while police began sorting out the chaotic circumstances. As detectives delved into what led up to the shooting, a troubling pattern emerged. This was not the first incident of domestic violence between Kajesa and Jeremy. Sheriff Hawkins confirmed to reporters that there was a history of domestic violence between Kajesa Brown and the victim. Neighbors and family were not entirely surprised that arguments between the couple had spiraled out of control. Violence had punctuated their relationship before. In fact, both Kajesa and Jeremy each had prior domestic violence incidents on record before that day. These past altercations painted a picture of a tumultuous, toxic relationship teetering on the brink. The fact that it happened in front of the couple's children and an online audience made it even more disturbing. Fortunately, Brown was in custody immediately, Hawkins noted, and unable to harm anyone else. But for Jeremy Brown, and for the children who witnessed their father's death, the damage was already done. In the hours after the shooting, Kajesa Michelle Brown was formally charged with murder in Jeremy's death. She was swiftly booked into jail, and authorities announced that she would face prosecution for killing her husband during a domestic altercation. At that stage, the charge was broadly referred to as murder, which in Mississippi could indicate a first-degree murder charge given the intentional nature of the shooting. Because of the gravity of the crime and the evidence including the Facebook Live recording, Brown was held in custody without bond. During her initial court appearance, the judge ordered that she be held with no bail, meaning she would remain jailed pending further legal proceedings. Investigators were still piecing together the full picture, but the recorded video and audio provided them with crucial first-hand evidence. The case quickly drew national attention due to the unusual and disturbing circumstances. A local news station noted that the Facebook Live murder made national headlines within days. True crime outlets and social media buzzed about the idea that a domestic murder had played out live online. This public exposure put pressure on the justice system to handle the case swiftly and decisively. In August 2023, a grand jury formally indicted Kajesa Brown for Jeremy's killing, affirming that there was enough evidence to proceed to trial on the murder charge. At that time, prosecutors emphasized that the shooting was not an accident or a mere mishap. It was the lethal culmination of a violent argument. The public nature of the crime being live-streamed for the world to witness, and the documented history of abuse, were highlighted as aggravating factors in the case. Law enforcement and the district attorney's office made clear they intended to hold Brown fully accountable for her actions. Following the indictment, Kajesa Brown appeared in court for arraignment, where the charges were formally read and she would enter a plea. She pleaded not guilty initially, as is common, and the court maintained her no-bond status given the seriousness of the charge and the circumstances. At the arraignment, prosecutors argued that Brown's claim that the gun just went off was not credible, stressing to the judge that this was an intentional shooting. They underscored the prior domestic violence incidents between Kajesa and Jeremy as evidence of a pattern that tragically escalated. The fact that the killing was captured on a live video stream also indicated forethought and callousness. It wasn't a private heat-of-the-moment incident, but something the defendant allowed to be recorded in real time. These points helped paint Kajesa as a danger to the community and supported the decision to keep her jailed pending trial. Over the next several months, as the case worked through pre-trial motions, the evidence against Brown remained damning. The audio/video from Facebook, the recovered handgun, and the corroborating statements from witnesses, and even the children's voices on the recording, all presented a strong prosecution case. Facing the likelihood of a conviction at trial and a very lengthy sentence, Kajesa Brown eventually chose to change her plea. On May 24, 2024, nearly 14 months after the shooting, Kajesa Brown pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in Lowndes County Circuit Court. This plea was part of an agreement to avoid trial. Originally, she had been facing a first-degree murder charge, but by accepting a guilty plea for second-degree murder, she acknowledged responsibility for Jeremy's death while possibly receiving a more defined sentence than if a jury found her guilty of first-degree murder. Second-degree murder in Mississippi generally implies a deliberate killing that lacked premeditation, distinguishing it from capital or first-degree murder. In her allocution to the court, Kajesa claimed the shooting was an accident, maintaining that she never meant to actually shoot her husband. However, by pleading guilty, she legally admitted to unjustifiably causing his death. The judge and Jeremy's family were unconvinced that this was a mere accident. The Facebook Live audio suggested an enraged confrontation rather than a random discharge of the weapon. Regardless of her motive or intent, Kajesa Brown was now a confessed killer in the eyes of the law. The judge sentenced Kajesa Brown to 40 years in prison for the murder. Under the terms of the sentence, she will be required to serve 34 years behind bars, and the remaining 6 years will be served under supervised release, similar to probation/parole, after incarceration. This effectively means Kajesa, who was 28 at the time of the crime and 29 at sentencing, will be in her early 60s by the time she fully regains freedom, and that's only if she earns any potential early release or credits. In Mississippi, second-degree murder carries a maximum of life, so a 40-year sentence was substantial, and sends a clear message. There is no parole for many violent crimes in Mississippi, so Brown will likely serve the bulk of those 34 years in prison custody. During the sentencing, there was little doubt that Kajesa's punishment reflected the severity and callousness of the act. The public nature of the crime was mentioned as an aggravating factor. Not only had she killed her spouse, but she did so as onlookers unwittingly listened online, and with children present in the room. The court had denied bond from day one, indicating how seriously the system viewed her case, and now the final prison term further reinforced that view. There was no indication of any light leniency, no suspended sentence beyond the structured supervised release, and no chance to avoid decades in prison. With Kajesa Michelle Brown now serving her sentence in a Mississippi penitentiary, Jeremy Brown's family is left to grapple with his shocking and very public loss. Jeremy Brown lost his life in a violent moment captured for the world to see. A trauma not only for those who knew him but for anyone who witnessed the video or followed the story. The couple's children, who reportedly saw and heard the killing firsthand, have been left without a father, and with the painful memory of that day. They are presumably in the care of other family members as their mother faces a decades-long imprisonment. The live streaming aspect of this murder intensified public scrutiny of the case. In an era where social media can broadcast everyday life in real time, viewers were suddenly confronted with the unfiltered reality of domestic violence at its most extreme. Many asked themselves if anything could have been done to prevent this tragedy. The case spurred conversations about the warning signs of abusive relationships and the ways technology can both document and potentially aggravate domestic conflicts. It also raised ethical questions. For instance, some bystanders on the live stream may not have realized it was real until it was too late. Facebook removed the video, but clips or recounting circulated, underscoring how once something so shocking hits the internet, it's hard to contain. Law enforcement officials pointed to this case as a stark example of how domestic disputes can escalate to lethal violence if help is not sought. Sheriff Hawkins emphasized that domestic violence was at the core of this incident, and that the community must not ignore such red flags. Unfortunately, in this case, prior incidents of abuse did not prevent the worst outcome. Advocates for domestic violence victims noted that streaming the argument might have been Kajesa's way of trying to publicly shame or pressure Jeremy during the fight, or even to gather evidence of his behavior, a tactic that horribly backfired. Others simply saw it as a sign of how volatile the situation had become, that recording it live seemed like an acceptable action in that moment. In the end, Kajesa Brown will remain incarcerated for a very long time under her 40-year sentence, and Jeremy Brown's life cannot be brought back. This tragic story serves as a cautionary tale about domestic violence and the unforeseen ways it can explode into public view. It is also a sobering reflection on modern life. Even the most private and heated moments can end up online, for better or worse. For those who witnessed the Facebook Live video, it was a chilling reminder that what they were seeing was not a movie or a prank. It was real, and it was deadly. The murder of Jeremy Brown by his wife Kajesa Brown is a story that shocked not only the local Columbus community but the entire nation. A young man was killed during a domestic altercation, and the world literally heard it happen in real time. The swift justice delivered, a guilty plea and a 40-year sentence, brought some closure in legal terms, but it can never undo the harm done to Jeremy's loved ones and the couple's children.
This case highlights the escalating danger of domestic violence and how it can reach a tragic flashpoint when weapons are involved. It also shows how the presence of an audience, even an online one, does not deter such violence. If anything, this crime being live-streamed added an extra layer of tragedy and public trauma. As we reflect on what happened, one hopes that increased awareness and intervention in domestic disputes can prevent future incidents from reaching such a horrific conclusion. Kajesa Brown will likely spend the prime of her life behind bars, and Jeremy Brown's life has been lost forever, a painful outcome of a toxic relationship that the world will remember for its senselessness. The Facebook Live murder of Jeremy Brown stands as a grim example of domestic violence in the digital age, reminding us that behind every viral headline is a real family shattered and a life that can't be replaced. If this story made you pause, good, now take the next step. Hit subscribe, because the truth doesn't always scream, sometimes it whispers.